Hello, welcome everyone. So we've made it down to the start line, just down at Preston Park, and I've got a bit of time to wait actually, about an hour. So I came down quite early and we've got the 10k runners setting off at the moment. So it's about 8:15 and then I'm going to be called for my wave at like 9:15. Just want to get started really, got that really kind of underlying energy, I suppose, just that buzz. It's great to see all the people around. Yeah, it's quite busy already behind me, but I think it'll probably get busier as people arrive to do the marathon too. So yeah, really good overall. I didn't sleep too well last night. I would say I had a lot of rest but not a lot of sleep. So I was, awake for quite a lot of the night, but it was still not too bad as nights go. So I'm feeling good and just raring to go.
So we're counting down to the start. We've got about 10 minutes to go.
So I didn't actually film too much during the race itself, and that was for a couple of reasons. Firstly, in the first half of the race, I got kind of wrapped up in the crowd and just the appreciation of everyone kind of around with various signs. So I kind of forgot to film, if you like, in the first half from enjoyment. In the second half, I was probably not in the mindset to film. It started to go a bit wrong towards the second half, and I'll explain why that is in a second. So I didn't reach my A goal. For those of you who tuned in previously, you'll know that my A goal was sub 3:30. I didn't manage to get that. In the end, I managed to get my B goal, which was sub 3:40. So the time I came out with in the end was 3:38:43, which, given how the day went, I was pretty pleased with. I've got my medal here, so from the Brighton Marathon, and I always, it's a bit geeky, but I always like to write on the back my time, the date, and the position as well. But I'm not majorly concerned with position overall, not at my speed, but just to look back on and have the kind of stats for when I want them. So overall, I'm really proud of it. I'm glad that I finished my first official marathon. Didn't quite go to plan. There was lots that went wrong. There was lots that went right as well, though. So I'll break some of those down in a moment. So just start by having a look at the splits for the day. So in terms of how my pacing went. So I'll just pop them up on the screen here. Overall, the first half I paced well. I was pleased with that. So if you look at the early splits I've got here, you can see 7:49 in the first one, and I'd aimed to not go out too fast, so I said to myself nothing below 7:45, so I was really pleased with that. There's a bit of an incline, an up and a down in the first mile, so that was all good. From there was some really nice miles through town. So like I said, heat was one of the big things I was thinking about. That's one of the things I was worried about on the day. It hit me later on, but those early miles in town were shaded, there was a bit of a breeze, and they were pretty nice overall. Where things started to take a little bit of a turn was mile 10, because mile 10 was when I noticed that my watch wasn't in line with the mile markers on the course. So when I got to 10 miles on my watch, I noticed that I hadn't yet reached the 10-mile marker, and it was only when I got to 10.4 that I realised that the mile marker was there. And obviously, for anyone who's heard about what's happened with the Brighton Marathon, that's because they actually mismeasured the course, and there was an extra 568 metres, I think it was, which I guess corresponds to the extra 0.4 miles on my watch. So that kind of sowed a little seed of doubt in my mind. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think I would have got my A goal sub 3:30 anyway, even if the course was measured correctly. But that was where it first had a bit of an impact, because I thought, oh, I'm doing really well for pacing, it's going perfectly to plan. But then my watch was saying something different, and it felt like I was actually behind. And when I kind of twigged that this might have been a problem with the course, it was when I asked people around me. I said, oh, what do your watches say? And, I've got a basic Garmin watch, and I thought, well, maybe my watch is just, not great for measuring distance. But there was other people around me with like more high spec watches, and I was asking them, what does your watch say? And at that point, it was saying like 10.4 when we got to the 10-mile mark. And I thought, yeah, there's probably something slightly off here. So pacing in the first half, I thought not too bad overall. It felt like I was meeting it, at least on my watch. It was when it started to get to kind of 16, 17 miles. That's when things took a bit of a turn. So one of the things about the course which I found difficult was how the water stations were organised. So there was cups of water being handed out, and then you would get a cup and then you would be sipping from it. So I took some cups, but it's kind of hard to run with them, with these paper cups, because it kind of jolts everywhere. And even if you do that technique of pressing them and then trying to sip a bit, it can quite quickly just spill everywhere. So I was trying to kind of gulp those a bit at the water station, and that actually came to hit me later on. I couldn't get enough water in, and when I did get water in, it was pretty much downing it rather than sipping it. So from mile 17, things were pretty brutal. I was getting more dehydrated. And then once I got to mile 20, and as you can see, my pace takes a bit of a turn there. Mile 20 was where I had to stop to go to the loo, because I'd taken on so much water. My stomach was just slushing around, and then I just had to stop and go to the loo. And then from there, I was feeling a bit dehydrated. I started to get cramp as well. I didn't take on enough electrolytes. I had a salt tablet at about 2 hours in, but I didn't have enough electrolyte drinks. They were serving some up, but again, it was in cups. If it was a bottle, it would have been much easier. It's not something that I practice for as much. I think it's on me. I'm not saying that necessarily like Brighton Marathon should change that. It would make it easier for me if they did. But really, before you do a run, you have to know the course and you have to practice with what they're going to give you. So I would take that as a lesson, certainly for next time. So as you can see, around kind of miles 20, 21, 22, it's getting slower in terms of the splits. Mile 23, there's quite a lot of walking in there when I end up at 10:41. However, when I get to the end of mile 23, I start to think to myself, actually, although I felt pretty rough, now my legs are starting to work a bit more, I'm getting less cramp, and I realised that if I pushed it, I could get my B goal, which was sub 3:40. And then you can see in miles 24, 25, 26, I thought, right, I'm going to get under 9 minutes for everyone, and then I'll be able to get in. And I managed to have a little bit of a fast one at the end, 7:48. So I was pleased with a strong finish too. Looking back at that video, I look more comfortable in it than I am, and actually the miles leading up to that one were just me kind of like panting and almost spitting everywhere, like pretty horrific sight. So it's a bit misleading, that clip. I didn't film the worst bits, but positives overall. There's some real positives to take from it. Firstly, the atmosphere, and I think that was thanks to the volunteers, to the crowd. That was really amazing. Just a really super event. So if anyone volunteered for it, then thank you so much. Anyone who cheered, all of that, just makes a real difference. That's the first thing. Pacing for 17 miles, I take that as another positive. I was happy with that. Of course, it's about how you pace the whole distance, not just 17 miles, but I was pleased with that anyway. No problems with my back. That was a good thing, because in my training there was a week, I think it might have been week 7 or 8, where I had some issues with my back, and when I did the solo marathon, my back started to hurt towards the end. When I did the ultra before, my back started to hurt, but I've been doing a bit more strength and conditioning on it, And actually that has made a big difference, so no issues there. Negatives, I wore my vest, which I was glad with overall, so my running vest, which I got from Decathlon just a few days before the marathon. Overall I was pleased with that because I was much cooler than I think I would have been, but I did get some heat rash under my armpits as I was running along, and it was kind of chafing on there, so that was a bit of pain. Bad cramping, as I mentioned, particularly from about 18, 19 miles in. I need to take more electrolytes next time. Stomach issues with taking on too much water. I need to sip for future events. And it would have been ideal, like I said, if the aid stations had bottles that I could sip, but I know that for environmental reasons and other things, they want to make sure they're not doing too much of that. Dehydration, which is related to that. And finally, I ended up with a black toe, which I think might fall off. Well, not the toe itself, but the toenail on the top. I think that might end up going. That was kind of a bit on the way out anyway before the marathon, but I think the marathon kind of is pushing it towards heading elsewhere. So now I've got my first official marathon out of the way. You might be thinking, what is next? What have I got planned besides recovery and just trying to rest? The next event is going to be an ultra marathon. So it's in 4 weeks' time. When I booked it, actually, I thought it was 5 weeks. I miscalculated, not good with maths. So it's 4 weeks' time, and it's going to be the Downslink Ultra. So that's a 38-mile ultra. It goes from St Martha's Hill in Surrey, not far from Guildford, to Shoreham. It's described as mainly flat, which I'm very glad with, given that the marathon has just happened. So it's going to be a flat one. It's on like an old, disused railway path mainly. So that's going to be what I'm training for next. I've thought a little bit about what I'm going to do. This week is mainly going to be about recovery, but doing some maybe little strength and conditioning things, swimming in the sea, but just listening to my body overall. So nothing too intense this week. And then over the next few weeks, I'm going to be thinking about how I'm going to do some training for it. And I've asked a few people about this already. So really thanks to anyone who's given me some advice already about it. But that is the plan next. So the Downslink Ultra, I'll be going into a bit more depth on my training for it and how I'm approaching it in another video. I'll say that for another time. But that is the plan. If you're new to the channel, then do consider subscribing to follow along for my next event, which is going to be, as I mentioned, the Downslink Ultra. So 38 miles, longest distance I would have run so far. Not sure how it's going to go, but only one way to find out. So thanks, I'll see you all next time.